What I wanted to do was sit down and talk about what I believe is still Omega's most underrated watch, and that is the Aqua Terra. Before I sat down and prepared this video, I realized that it's actually the 20th anniversary of this model. In 2002, the watch was introduced. And over the last 20-year period, this model has seen some great revisions and modifications. So the thought was to focus on the Aqua Terra, why I still believe it to be underrated, specifically looking at their current lineup of brilliantly sized 38mm models with bright new Sunburst spot colors, its departure away from the classic teak deck-inspired dial models in favor of a more minimalist, simplistic approach. The question is, does this Sunburst arrangement affect the significance of the Aqua Terra? Before we get started, a shameless plug. I have just started a new channel. I will link it up in the corner of the screen. It's called IDGuy, and it's basically going to be a place where I talk about anything but watches. If it's design related, technology, character studies, philosophies, you name it. You know, it's no longer on a spreadsheet anymore, it's live and right in front of you. It's on display and producing amazing results. Then things start to get interesting. As an industrial designer, I can truly appreciate how this car presents itself. It looks traditionalist. It's using bulbous, rounded forms. And rounded shapes like these aren't only going to make for better aerodynamic performance, but it's also a design that's going to age very well. It has this feeling of a 1950s sports car with elements coming from the likes of Austin Healey's. The channel has just been launched, so your support over there would be greatly appreciated. If you enjoy me, if you enjoy the presenting style, you will likely enjoy what goes on over there. Back to our regularly scheduled program. On the wrist today is not an Omega. It's a new watch, my freshly unveiled Tudor FXD. I tried to make a deep and comprehensive video about my journey to this watch, why it's so special to me, so I'll be linking that for you at the end of this video. And as much as I really appreciate Tudor as a brand, I think I will always be an Omega fanboy at heart, so let's get back into the context of this video. When we hear the name Omega, 9 times out of 10 we usually think of the Speedmaster. The name is synonymous with the brand. We could agree that the Speedmaster is their most important property. The journey into space, the great history, the great collaborations. And then the Seamaster, the 300, the Professional, James Bond, Jacques Cousteau, Comex, some amazing designs. The Planet Ocean collection, now holding the greatest depth record for a commercial dive watch. The Globemaster, probably one of their most elegant designs, calling back to some of the oldest constellations, housing one of the most accurate mechanical movements on the planet. This is the reason why we love Omega so much as a brand, and is the hallmark of an excellent manufacturer. If we as a community were offered any of these pieces, we would gladly accept them with open arms. Speedmaster, Seamaster, Railmaster, Globemaster, just to name a few. And it's no secret that Omega is my favorite watch brand. If I only had to talk about one manufacturer for the rest of my life, it would be Omega. It's because they have such a diverse catalog, a rich history, gorgeous, unique designs, amazing watchmaking from entry-level to high horology, attention to detail, reissues and their modern interpretations, and that's where the Seamaster Aqua Terra steps in, because it captures all of these elements. From a full titanium 29-jewel shock-resisting movement to a world time, to annual calendars, GMTs, small seconds, the Aqua Terra has seen them all. This watch has some interesting design origins because it's so closely linked to the original Seamasters from back in the day, from the 50s and the 60s. And you can see how these cues have been brought across and married with a more professional look, a more professional case, style, design. I find that the blending of the sharp batons and hands, how they have been married with this professional lyre lug case, is brilliant. It comes across as an all-original design, obviously belonging to Omega, that bridges this gap of vintage and modern in such a clever way. But the beauty is that its design at heart is not trying to imitate any other. Now this watch is incredibly underrated. It's one that's not seen anywhere near as high as the Speedmaster and the Seamaster. But interestingly enough, it's also been one of Omega's biggest test platforms. We see that the Aqua Terra more often than not debuts new movements, new technology, new materials. And in a way, this design and style, over the last 20 years, has shown a clear evolution of the brand. 20 years on, it's a style that has survived. It has surpassed, I think, the initial predictions. It shows that Omega has a very clear understanding about their own design language and what it represents. And that's something that a lot of brands struggle with today. It manages to portray this visage of something that is balanced, youthful, aggressive, but elegant. And that is all down to its size, its spacing, the understanding of its text, how it's placed and positioned. Also, simple things that have helped this watch transition into the modern era is the date window placement, and how adjustments to diameters, bracelets, crown sizes also make a big difference. Ultimately, what makes the Aqua Terra so great, if we look beyond the movement and the technology and everything that Omega puts inside it, its language is entirely its own. But now to question this new series, these new models that have come out this year. 38mm, there's a smaller size for ladies. Bright spot colors. Dare I say that these models are looking at the Oyster Perpetuals for inspiration? This could be refuted or agreed. These colors do manage to bring across a level of excitement and dynamism that we haven't seen with the Aqua Terra line as of yet. And the vibrance that some of these colors offer does introduce quite a unique selling point. My favorite pairing has to be between the emerald green, the navy blue, as you can see I'm a fan, and the terracotta, this candy apple red. I don't know if Omega is planning on removing the teak deck designs of these models in the future, which I hope they don't, because that's always been something very unique that the Aqua Terra has been known for. But I do hope that these new spot colors invite someone else into this space. Of course, this is not the first time that we have seen sunburst dials on watches, but I believe it to be the first time that the Aqua Terra has introduced this new format. With this setup comes an entirely new bracelet with a taper, and we can also see that they've changed the brushing and the polishing on these models. And I would be interested to know from you about these new series of pieces with these sunburst dials. Were they a hit or a miss? I guess the significance of the Aqua Terra comes from the small things, the unaddressed things. The fact that this watch is so different to its dive watch counterpart, but manages to possess all of the traits that belong to the Seamaster. It's underrated because it's seen as a time and date model with nothing special to offer. No bezel, no chronograph feature. It focuses on being more of an elegant sports watch than something utilitarian. But I disagree. I think this watch manages to blend both disciplines so well. And it's underrated because it's one of the most unobtrusive, unpretentious, minimalist, efficient, and balanced designs that Omega offers. It doesn't receive the fanfare. More often than not, it's pushed aside so the dive watch can take its place. And to think that this is a fairly recent design, this is a new property, this is not something like a Datejust, but it has a position and status amongst enthusiasts, collectors, and new time buyers that says that it rivals its competitor's design that is nearly 100 years old. The beauty about the simplistic approach of the Aqua Terra is that it's a style that'll always be timeless. It's a piece that you can foresee is going to last into the future. As we know, these are the best designs. And where a lot of people prefer watches that are far more professional driven, that are far more recognizable, I'm one of those candidates. There are many others out there who prefer watches that represent an older time, a time of simplicity and elegance, and how that marries so beautifully with a sports watch. That is what the Aqua Terra is, and always will represent.